Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this big old world. My name is Jade and this is How to App on iOS. And it's Friday here in Australia. And it's time for the rant. The rant, man. We do a rant every new season of this show, and we got Pete Johns on the show. Awesome. To kick it off, folks, we're going to play a little bit of this. What do you think? And hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name's Jade, and it's Friday, as I said, and this is How to App on iOS. And I hope you're all doing well out there. That was Smoke. That is, I guess, our latest release by me and Pete Johns, our first kind of release under my name, because I've played drums on his stuff before, so that's really cool. And as Pete wrote in the chat there, it's a damn long song, and as I said, I had to get my money's worth because it's $20 a year to put it up on DistroKid. So as you can would have read, folks, today is the rant, where we're just going to shoot the shit as honest as we possibly can. We'll answer your questions. We've got a whole bunch of topics we'll talk about. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show your friend and my friend, the creative genius of Studio Live today, and a fantastic musician within his own right, of course. Pete Johns, welcome to the show, Pete.
Hello. You're paying $20 a year for me to sing for that long? That seems like a bad deal, just quietly. But hey, how you spend your money is your business, which I'm sure we'll talk about and rant about today.
Completely worth it, man. Completely worth it. I'd do it again. Let's do a whole Ben Folds album.
Right, there you go. $200 a year, so you can have me whining and 5 minutes long. No, it's a great song, and it's a wonderful, one of my favourite Ben Folds songs. But yeah, because it's got that nice break sort of towards the end and the bridge, and then the nice little piano scrape bit. I know you talked about it in your show recently, but that's the coolest sound. And the way you replicated that, I can't remember what instrument you used in the end, but Ben actually literally scrapes across the strings of a baby grand to get that sound. And yeah, you replicated it digitally, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, so can people not hear Pete? I'm not sure. You should be able to. I can see that it's working. Just make sure. So one person said, is Pete's mic on?
The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plane.
I can hear it. It's coming through my NDI here. Pete's got camera audio instead of his mic.
Oh, do I?
Oh, no, so Bubba says 10 out of 10 here.
Do I have camera audio? Let me check. It's not like I'm, a professional and do this for a living. Let's go to my settings. I did check my camera settings, but I've been playing around with my camera, so maybe I'm up on my camera. Where's my audio? There's my camera, microphone.
It's all looking good here.
Default communication device. Let's switch over. Let's hit this button here and see if we.
There we go.
Buttery smoothness. Is that sounding a bit better?
Yeah, that's a bit better. Yeah, so it was a little bit echoey.
Yeah, there you go. That was the there you go. If you ever wanted to know why you don't use a webcam's microphone when you're streaming live and when you're recording videos, that's the reason why. Because I'm back through my Zoom live track and the Audio Technica A3300, so it should be a little bit smoother.
So that kicks off an interesting topic as well. Are you using that brand new webcam that you tried out in the show?
I'm sure not.
Right.
I'm back on my C922. So yeah, you called it on the day, but I paid $330 for the new Logitech Brio because it's a 4K webcam. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's got a bigger sensor. It's got glass lens, and it just didn't look as good. Like I think it's trying too hard. When you buy some gear that it has all the stuff and it tries to do too much, whereas if you just get the base level stuff and then you tweak it, you kind of learn how it works. So I'll get there with it, but I think I need to spend some more time tweaking and working on it. So until then, I flip back to my old one. Don't tell anyone, except I just did.
Yeah, well, it's the rant, so why not? And, this is why I do this with you on the rant, because, this is your chance to come on my channel and spew anything you need to over here so it doesn't affect your channel at all, if you so desire. No pressure whatsoever.
Yeah. But there's none of the same people here at all either, so they won't know.
It's all a secret. But, with that camera too, I actually was looking at that camera. I watched a ton of reviews on that camera and was very close to getting it. And I think I waited up in the end was because I went for another 920. So I think I've got 3 920s. I've got the one on here now. I've got another one sitting here. And I've got these really cool little stands. I've got about 6 of them, but not enough cameras for them. But I went for a normal 920 because I worked out that I would have only been paying for that wide shot. That's the only difference I could see from that one. And I don't really do a lot of stuff on camera anyway. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. I just thought because I was stuck in between because basically, and we'll talk about it later, but we might as well start ranting. When I look around at other people's streams, because most people that are streaming now are using a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, they're plugging it in through an HDMI adapter, they're tweaking all the settings, they know what things like exposure and white balance mean, whereas I just press buttons until it looks about how I think it should look. So yeah, I was kind of feeling a little bit down. I'm like, I don't have the time or the energy or the effort required to do all of that, to spend $1,000 on a new camera, to work out the HDMI. And for those that know my live streaming, you know my 10-year-old i5 3500 chip is just not going to handle 4K, let alone 1080p HDMI coming through at the same time as doing all the audio stuff. So yeah, that's why I went, if I can get the most premium quality webcam that I possibly can and have decent lighting, then maybe I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, I need to spend some more time with the Brio in the settings and maybe tweak my lighting a bit, because yeah, it's got a different, it gives you that glow, which I think people like, but I don't know, I prefer the sharpness, and I think I get a little bit more sharpness with the 922, which is very similar to the 920. There you go. We've got nerdy into like webcam.
Yeah, of course.
Video.
So I should say hello to folks in the chat. So I'll do my best to catch up because there's a lot of you here today. So Alex Backus, welcome along. Tom Rochelle, Gary Hub, Scott, Andy Goldsby, SM Borthwick. Who else is I'm scrolling down frantically? Stu Cash, hello. Benedict, Stewart, Patrick Chandler, hello. Deep Gravity, mentioned you. Also, scroll. Oh, there's Pete Johns in the chat. Is it Alex, so welcome aboard. Bubba, hello. Good to see you as well. Gary Hubs, Dr. Zorders.
Dr. Zoidberg.
Dr. Zoidberg. Wouldn't that be cool if Dr. Zoidberg was here? Damn. I think I've covered everybody. Scrolling down. Auntie G, hello. I think I
G says I was sounding a bit groggy, which I am too, because it is early morning and I'm only on coffee 1.5. So I am also a bit groggy, Auntie G. But yes, I was sounding echoey and groggy at the same time.
Yeah, I'm a bit tired today. I was working on music last night and got a bit involved in it. Got a bit lost in it with that bloody MIDI guitar, that guitar MIDI too. I was playing a symphony on my guitar and I got lost in it. Then I forgot about the song and then I ended up playing that for about an hour. So good times. So we've got some topics to cover today. Let's start off with the thing that's been on everybody's lips and tits and bits for this week. That is the new Macs. Yay! We've got new Macs and just from the last few days, there's a lot of opinions circling, and I know what you think about opinions. So, enlighten me. What do you think? Are you going to get one, Pete?
I probably am eventually. I keep flipping and flopping as to whether I go in hard and early, whether I go in soft and early, whether I go in late. I don't know. I'm starting to sound really weird. No, I think that this is clearly going to be the future for Apple, but like, whenever something like this happens, my advice is always don't go first gen and let other suckers iron out the bugs before you jump on board. So in the spirit of that, if I take my own advice, I don't buy one of these this year. I let everyone else buy them and I watch what happens in the next 6 weeks. And then I read the reviews, I look at the specs, I see the real world tests, and then I work out, is this going to be something that's going to work for me? That's the practical side of Pete. I want to get a new toy and play with something cool side of Pete is I want a Mac Mini tomorrow and I want to see what it does with iOS apps and I want to play with GarageBand on a Mac on my actual desktop, because that would actually be pretty awesome. I would like that. But what do you think, Jay? Where are you at? I know you were also in the same boat where you're coming and going, you're going to buy one now, later. What's your latest?
I'm still in for it. I'm definitely still going for it. And the reason is because, and again, I agree with a lot of the things you say. Gears, if you use what you've got, there's no need to really, and I have pretty much all I need here. So let's be straight up about that. But I've always wanted to own a Mac. I've used them in jobs I've had, so I know my way around them. But I think with me, I already off the bat have a very specific use case of what I want to use it for. So it's definitely not going to be used for streaming or anything else, because I have my amazing laptop, which I use for all of this and gaming and stuff. I love the idea of having this small little Mac Mini hidden away at the back of my desk under the computer, hooked up to because I have an amplifier down here which has all my HDMI, everything connected, and to be able to just flick across to that and know at any time I can access GarageBand on Mac or Logic, and be able to share projects with people who may not use iOS. That is the only thing I really want to use it for, just to know that as it grows, we're going to be able to use iOS with it. So I'm nervous as well, because it's $1,000 and it's 1,400, the one I'm looking at.
And that's that. I'm exactly the same spot. Is that, as I mentioned before, I've got my aging PC, so this will blow my current PC out of the water in terms of performance, even if it has the problems people are mentioning. And if you haven't caught up, by the way, probably the couple of controversies that have come out is that they're only upgradable to 16 gigabytes of RAM, and most people running PCs now, you're probably on 16 gigabytes, if not more, if you're running any sort of powerful computer. And they've got a integrated system on a chip, an SoC, they're calling it, which means that your memory is shared. And it's a 4-letter word to say integrated memory or shared memory with your video and your CPU. So again, if you're not into the technology side, it just means that your CPU, your processor of your chip that does all the grunt work of running your apps and things, and your GPU, which is a graphics processor, usually they're going to be separate and have separate memory and separate processors, so that you get nice smooth 4K video, and then your CPU can be reserved for all the grunt work and the power behind the apps. What Apple have done here with the M1 chip is brought that all onto one little chip, one system on a chip. So it means you'll only have 8 gig or 16 gigs of RAM to share between those. They also haven't mentioned what the clock speed is going to be like. That was just completely not even mentioned, but a lot of people are now saying, does that even matter what the clock speed is? It's all very new, and it's clearly the way that they're going. And the problem's going to be all the benchmarks are going to be compared to the old world. And what Apple have basically said is that this is completely new, this is completely different, and you can't factor that in. But all of us have legacy apps that we want to run. All of us have things that we do right now. So this is great if this runs Safari and GarageBand and iMovie, but what about when I have 10 Chrome tabs open? How's it going to function with that and run that with one playing 1080p YouTube video while another one I'm uploading or rendering a video or streaming on StreamYard? So there's more questions than answers right now, but it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting time in the world of computers and Macs.
Yeah, and look, I'll be the counterpoint to it, because I think what people are missing too, this is a totally new thing, right? But it's not really, because we've all had iPads and iPhones for the longest time. And we all know these devices run buttery smooth, and they don't have excessive fans in them. And they all have integrated graphics chips in the main chip now, SoC chips now. So we know from the past. And we know the iPad Pro is very impressive with being able to multitask and do these kind of things. So this chip is obviously, it's obviously better than what you're going to find in an iPad Pro. So that's a good thing. And, I do believe that there are a lot of people still holding on to this backward era of Intel chips and looking at clock speeds. I think Apple now, I'm not meaning to sound like a fan person here and fanning out on this, but, every time we poo-poo it when they make these massive changes and go, who's going to do that? We all need a CD drive. We all need it. Well, I'd still like some headphone jacks here. But they do have a history of introducing these new technologies that do become the standard.
Yeah.
And there have been PC laptops in the past that have had no fans and stuff that run on... I had one, an Acer, years ago, and it had no fan in it. Oh, my God, it was the fucking worst computer I've ever had. It was just so much trouble because it was running Intel, and, the clock speeds... They're just outdated. It's an outdated format, I think. I have hope that we're going to move into a new era of computing with it. So,
I think so. And it is interesting that I mentioned the other day that I think that they've very deliberately chosen the price point with these ones. So for those like me that came out and said, well, why don't they update the 16-inch? Why don't we have any more than 16 gig of RAM available? I think they looked at 2020 and went, who's going to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on a pro-level computer that's a first gen? They're going to let the college students, they're going to let the consumers, they're going to let the bleeding edge folks like you and I, who probably will just take the plunge and get one, and let them figure it out and be the guinea pigs before they do the full pro Pro stuff, because you can bet your bottom dollar that someone whose livelihood depends on them editing 4K video right now in Final Cut Pro or in Premiere Pro is not rushing out to buy one of these. They're sitting there on their Mac Pro with 32 gig of RAM and a couple of terabytes of SSD in there, and they're going to keep using that because they're not going to trust a brand new platform. Just like we say with iOS, it's the same reason that this is still running iOS 13 is that I edit video every day on my phone. If I leave the house today to edit today's video and suddenly there's a problem with LumaFusion because iOS 14 threw itself up all over my phone, then I'm not going to be able to do my job. So the same thing with this is like, if you're a hobbyist, if you're doing something and if it's an extra thing and you're going to jump into it, I think that's great. I think go for it. And if you're a regular consumer, like if you're a college student right now, if my kids were going, I say college student because most folks are in the US, if my kids were off to uni tomorrow and they needed a laptop, I'm buying them a MacBook Air. I think there's a no-brainer there. Get a MacBook Air. It's going to be quiet. It's going to be thin. It's light. They're going to throw it in their bag. It's going to do everything that they need it to do, and then some. And they'll be able to rock out on GarageBand in their spare time when they're between lectures. So that I think is the price point and the market they're going for, not the pro-level people. And unfortunately, it's a lot of the pro-level people that have a lot of the opinions that are out there talking about this. They're probably not considering the fact that most of your consumers don't give a crap about clock speed or even RAM or even system on chips or integrated anything. They just want something that when they press the button, it works and it works well.
Yeah, well, it is their mantra after all. You know, that is, it just works. That is it. And it's you know, let's be honest. We talked about this before. This is Apple are very they care a lot about what their consumers want. Like consumers, not, you know, sure they talk, there's lip service for the pros these days, but the consumers are the most important because they just want it to work. And, you know, customer sat is very important to Apple. It's always very important to Apple. It used to be far more important at their keynotes because they'd always go on about customer satisfaction, and how many people had moved to iOS. It's still very important. I don't think they mention it anymore. And, you know, the other thing about them making it for college students, it's a bit odd because apparently to you there is no such thing as college. What is your response?
Oh, I could make a horrible comment about there really isn't such thing as college right now or university or anything. Well, it's your own house at the moment, sadly. But no, there is no such thing as college. That's most people would know that, but that's a reference to a song that I wrote because back in the day we didn't know what college was, and all my knowledge of college was 80s college movies like Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds. So I'd be watching these college movies going, hang on, in America, do they just go to college to learn how to drink and sleep with like people in sororities and fraternities? Like I don't know what this is all about, but apparently it's not that far from the truth for some colleges at least.
I've been to America, Pete, and I've seen it. I had my music played on college radio over there and saw it firsthand. Saw a frat party and was like, you fucking people are mental. But anyway, welcome to Patrick from the GarageBand Guide is here. He's
Hello,
just written
Patrick.
here.
The GarageBand Guide, thank you.
I said GarageBand.
Garage.
Garage. He says he hasn't downloaded it yet because he keeps getting error messages.
Big Sur. Yeah, that's probably a good segue actually to Big Sur.
And thinks Apple servers are having to deal with several million people trying to down. See, this is the thing. There's a lot of people out there who are so desperate to download it, and they're all pressing download. And I'm sure Apple's help page is going to be full of those same people going, "It doesn't work. There's problems."
There's a bunch of PC people just doing denial of service attacks on this, just so the Mac people can't download their update. I'm a PC. Oh, did you see that John Hodgman's back? The I'm a PC guy at the end. He trolled their little announcement there. For those that don't know, that John Hodgman, who's a good comedian, very funny guy, good author, like does a lot of good things. But he's the I'm a PC. If you remember the old I'm a Mac, I'm a PC. And who was the other dude? That was the other guy, Justin someone. Can't remember his name.
His last name.
But yeah, Justin Long, and he's the Mac. He's the cool young guy, and John Hodgman's the older, balding, pudgy dude, which I find rather offensive. He's the PC, and he came back and said, "Oh, what does it matter if you're slow? What does it matter if you don't work?" And like, it was a brave move by Apple because these things are fast in their lab tests and with the 4 people that they gave it to so they could film them using it. But again, I don't mean to bring it all back to benchmarks, but the proof will be in the pudding. It'll be in the real world tests of what people do. And the same with Big Sur. I think it'll be interesting to see how that runs on older hardware. In fact, and I don't even know the answer to this, and Patrick may know, or he can find out, but a lot of folks seem a bit confused because they talked about the M1 chip, and then they talked about Big Sur, and then they talked about the iOS integration and compatibility. I'm almost positive that's only the M1 chip, whereas a lot of folks are getting excited because they think that their old Mac running Big Sur, they can suddenly throw GarageBand iOS. I don't think that's going to be the case.
I think you're spot on with that. I don't think the chip's going to be able to handle that. It's this is virtually an iOS chip that's been super steroided up. So yeah, if you're thinking that's going to happen on an Intel device, I don't think that's going to happen at all. But look, I'm very excited to see what people say about it. But again, I'm not sure if the one thing that Apple are really good at, let's be honest, is that we just touched on about moving forward with technology. And when I said before about how clock speeds may not be as important, who knows? Maybe the RAM may not be as important either. I mean, iPad Pros only, what do they have, 6 gigabytes of RAM? So 16 on a Mac with these chips may really just blow it out the water. And they've got these labs that they sit around in, and they're obviously testing this thing out, and they've been working towards this for a long, long time. I remember a conversation I had with you on Messenger probably a couple of years ago where I said they're heading to the day where they're going to merge the two. It will, and I still think it's going to get there eventually. Not maybe in 5 years' time they'll become one.
It is interesting, actually. I saw a few comments and conversations on places like the GarageBand Guide. There you go. I saw Patrick commenting. GarageBand users Facebook group and the iPad Musician Facebook group. Like, obviously, a lot of iOS people are talking about this because of the thought of having a laptop or a desktop that can run iOS apps. And I thought that it was interesting about how a couple of things, how you interface with it, because obviously every iOS app is designed around a touch interface, and Apple have decided that you want a touch, you go iPad, you want no touch, you go Mac. So not having the touch screen and having iOS apps, and look, we've started already seeing it. I mean, I've got my Magic Keyboard now because you convinced me to spend $500 on a keyboard. But even if you're using a regular Bluetooth mouse and keyboard, a lot more apps are supporting mouse and keyboard for iOS apps, especially for creative apps like video editing and audio editing. So that will be okay, but it'll be interesting to see, are they completely without a touchscreen at all? Will we get hung up and you just want to do that one thing? And you know what it's like? Sometimes you click on it and you've just got to touch it to do it. So that could get frustrating. And the other thing is connectivity. So obviously for you and I, we connect a lot of stuff to our iOS devices through USB hubs and through MIDI and audio interfaces. And I've got my mixer and everything that runs through my iPad. It'll be interesting to see how that goes with a Mac. And the one thing that was mentioned, I know we talked yesterday, on Mac Break Weekly, is that there are no drivers for any of this stuff. So all the drivers that are around Mac at the moment are Intel. So Apple will support all their own stuff out of the box, no problem whatsoever. But what happens when you plug your Alesis mixer or your Blue Yeti microphone? I mean, most of them are class compliant in the audio world now, which is a good thing. Yeah. So that's going to help. But your higher end audio and your higher end video gear that needs a driver to run on Mac, how's that going to work on the Mac side? And then if you try to then use that same thing on iOS, is it going to use shared resources? Like how do you tell it to go from the Mac audio over to your iOS apps audio? I think there's a few things it's almost why I want to buy one, because I want to test this stuff out and see how it all works. But it'll be interesting to see those first few folks that start using GarageBand on their Mac, GarageBand iOS on their Mac, how it connects, how you set it up, and how it works. So, Patrick, I expect you to be taking that one for the team.
So the other thing with the MacBook Pros, I think the reason they didn't go with the full 32 gig RAM and all that stuff, because they do understand that there are pros out there who this ain't going to work for immediately, and that's where the transition's going to take a longer period of time, and that's why they've released these smaller versions for smaller consumers and people who might be on a Mac Air, who might be thinking of moving to a Pro. So moving to that smaller Pro with the 16 gig, that's the perfect move for someone like that who's just doing some video editing and not creating movies and studio Hollywood films and all that stuff. And they need to do this before they even consider moving this to something like the actual Mac Pro, the cheese grater or something like that.
Yeah.
I wonder what's going to happen with that. That's another thing I keep thinking of. Are they going to have like an M10 that's like, the size of a piece of bread for that thing? That's going to be interesting as well.
Yeah, like I said, I think there's more questions than answers right now. But hey, it's exciting. And one thing you can't say that Apple have done in 2020 is sat on their hands and just waited for things to happen. They've made things happen. So whether you love them or hate them for that, you can't deny that they have put themselves out there. They've put out I counted it out the other day. So we've had 3 2020 iPads. We've had 4 2020 iPhones. We've now had 3 2020 Macs. We've had the new little mini speaker. We've had the new watch, the Series 4 or 5. I can't keep up with them. The Watch SE. We've had the iPhone SE, which is actually a 5th iPhone they released. So, yeah, gone are the days where you have your one kind of big switch release and you get some new Macs out, some new iPads, and new iPhones. They've scattered it all the way through. And I think the latest play is actually pretty smart, because the final thing I'll say on this is, for folks like me who haven't owned a Mac before, like ever, people think I must have Macs because I'm a big iOS guy, but I've never owned a Mac. This is more tempting than it has ever been for me to get on the Mac world because of the iOS cross-compatibility and the fact that it is more like iOS now. And I think they realize that. I think they know there's a bunch of people just like me who are on iOS. They've had their iPhone and iPads for a long time, but they're still on PC because they don't want that learning curve going from Windows to Mac OS. The more they make Mac OS like iOS, the more likely folks like me are going to go out and buy a Mac and get into that world.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm one of those people too. Been waiting for the longest time for it to happen. Had my eye on a Mac Mini for the longest time because I don't want another laptop. Even when my laptop sits here on my desk, it's annoying.
Yeah.
I love the thing to death, but it's annoying. It's not like my iPads. They make me much happier to look at. Right. Computers are an eyesore to me.
I hate stuff. I hate gear. I know that's one of your other topics we'll talk about later, but
nice segue, because we're going to talk about gear acquisition syndrome.
Oh, I got to be some gas.
Yes. I've suffered from gas this year big time. I'll start with that. So it may seem like I've been addicted, and I have for a time. But I was. So again, I think with me wanting a Mac Mini, I have a specific plan for what I want it for. So I think with gear acquisition syndrome, I think you have to put a lot of thought into what you're actually buying, shop around a lot, make sure you're getting the best value for what you're buying, and actually have a very specific use case for what you're implementing into your home studio or whatever it is you're doing for live streaming. And I did that. It looks like over this year I did buy a lot of things, I'll be honest. But I bought them over about a 7-month period of time, and things I had on watch lists for about 3 months, and nothing was like off the cuff. Maybe the violin that was a bit crazy. That's because somebody died in my family, and I bought it for a tribute. But yeah. So look, I'm all about buying gear as long as there's a specific use case for it. If it's putting you in debt and it's going to sit there and collect dust, definitely don't do it. So what are your thoughts on that? Because you on your channel you promote gear, so yeah. I guess that's a struggle.
It's a really hard one for me because, yes, I do promote gear, and I'm pretty upfront about it that whenever I do a video about gear, there's affiliate links in the description, and I'll always say, yep, if you make a purchase through my gear guide and through the affiliate links, they break off a chunk and send it to me. And look, that's one of the main reasons that I've been able to leave the corporate world and do this full time. So I'm going to make no bones about the fact that I do sell gear. I'm basically a salesperson. I'm a sleazy gear salesperson, but the bottom line, though, is that I kind of shoot myself in the foot. I'm actually terrible at sales and marketing because I will say things like, use the gear you have. Only buy the gear once you're at the point where you know it's going to add value. Buy the gear that is going to fill the gap of what you need. So if someone came to me tomorrow and said, hey, Pete, I'm going to buy myself an Audient ID4, a Shure SM7B with a cloud lifter, and $2,000 iPad Pro 2020, and I'm just starting out in music, I would say, go shelve all that. Think about that for maybe 2 or 3 years' time. Go and buy yourself a Steinberg UR12 and an Audio-Technica AT 2020. So I would actually downsell them to spending $200 or $300 on gear to get started with, rather than spending $3 or $4 grand. And I think that's the problem. People think of that it's exponentially better. and I always use the wine analogy with this stuff, is that, yes, if you're starting out and you're using nothing, so you're using the onboard microphone or you're using just like a crappy microphone, $20 eBay microphone, you're going to get sound and it's going to be okay. If you upgrade to something like what we use, the Steinberg UR series interfaces or an Audio Technica or a Samson microphone or anything that's next level up, it's going to be amazing. You're going to be blown away by the quality. When you go from that $100 microphone to that $500 microphone, it's not 5 times better. If anything, it might be 20% better, just like going from a $20 to a $100 bottle of wine. And the weird thing is that sometimes better gear can make you worse. We talked about it with my camera at the start of this one.
Mm-hmm.
I had a camera that the Brio has so many options. I get overwhelmed and I end up with a crappy looking picture because I don't know how to tweak it and define it and do all the things that I need it to do. And its factory default settings are crappy. So I need to learn more to use the better gear. And it's the same with this. You use a Focusrite or a Steinberg interface, it's plug and play. You plug it into your thing, you plug your microphone in, you dial up the gain till it's about right, and you go. If you start using mixers and you start using higher end gear, you can get yourself super overwhelmed and you're not going to use it to its potential. So yeah, I say all that to say I should probably encourage people to buy more gear, but I'm never going to, because I would hate to get those emails from people saying, you said that I should buy this really expensive thing, and now it didn't help at all. So yeah, that's my philosophy in a nutshell.
Yeah, and you know, I think with your channel too, because you are so honest about it too, most of us realize that, well, I think all of us realize this, not most, that you know, you are showing off a lot of new things, and so it's part of your role to do. So you know, take that in instead of like, oh well, Pete's showing me that, oh, I need to buy that as well, I need to buy that as well. And I think most people can get the gist of that. And look, during this whole COVID thing, I think not a lot of people have the money to go and just splash out on all this stuff anyway. Plus there's been no stock anyway, which has been probably a saving grace for many people following through with gas.
It has been it's been good for gas in that you haven't been able to buy anything. It's been bad for those whose income depends on the fact that people can buy some gear, because I've had the reverse situation where someone said, Pete, I just want you to set me up. Like, tell me exactly what I need to set up my home studio. And I'll say what I normally do: Steinberg UR22C, Audio Technica AT2020, powered USB hub, pair of Sennheiser HD280 Pros. About a $500 setup here in Australia, probably about $350 to $400 US, and you're good to go. Problem is, all that stuff hasn't been in stock for most of the year. It's only just getting back in stock now. So I've had a lot of people that have been like, or they'll say, I tried to use your affiliate links, but it was out of stock. So I just had to go and find it wherever else. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And again, I would rather people do that, which again is why I'm such a bad sales and marketing person. I'd rather they get the gear somehow and start creating than wait around just to support the channel. But it's been frustrating for some folks that there hasn't been the gear available to buy, even if they've wanted to buy it. In terms of the whole like acquiring too much gear, I'm hitting reverse on this stuff, and I know I'm in a privileged position here where I have all the gear I need. I have 5 or 6 different audio interfaces here right now. I'm at the point where I'm starting to sell and give away some of my gear because I don't want it here. It's actually a mental drain. Every time I look at my shelf of gear, it's actually making me feel mentally drained that I still have this stuff. And so I'm trying to actually actively get rid of it. But at the same time, I'm more selective now about what comes into my house and the gear that comes in. And I really, like you said at the very start of this, there really needs to be a purpose for it. It's like apps. I know, I'm looking at the top saying it's how to app. Yep. I know we're talking about hardware, but it's the exact same philosophy with apps. I actually get the same mental exhaustion with the clutter of the apps on here. When I look at apps that I bought for $10, used once, and then haven't touched again for 3 years, it actually makes me feel anxious because I'm like, oh, I should go in and use that app because you got that sunk cost bias. I'm like, spent money, I need to go use it. Whereas really what I should be doing is thinking hard about what I'm actually buying and if I need it. And you did this with the Mammoth bass recently. You're like, I've been thinking about buying this for ages. I needed a really good bass sound. Couldn't get the bass sound I needed from any other app. Bought Mammoth. It gave me the bass sound I need. That's, I think, the exact use case for an app rather than, oh, new, shiny, I must buy this. And then you buy it, you use it for 10 minutes. You're like, why did I buy this again? Can I have my money back now, please? So that's my view.
Yeah, definitely. And with for the apps for me too, like and I'm completely transparent and as upfront as I possibly can be. I already owned a lot of apps. I already spent a lot of money on apps. It just is what it is. I've owned iOS devices since the first iPhone, when they didn't even have an app store, you know, which as soon as the 3G came out, I was just downloading apps like crazy. So many free apps at the beginning because the iPhone cost so much. But with my show, there's a lot of developers who are giving me these codes to actually show you guys. And, you know, it's not like I'm trying to just do every app. I'm trying to be selective with apps that I think would help people in specific use cases of specific genres that people play in. And sure, there's a lot of them that are expensive. Like a great example of that is what I did this week with the MIDI Guitar 2.
Mm-hmm.
Australian dollars, $50 to unlock the whole thing. But my reasoning behind it, aside from it being absolutely amazing technology that you can play a symphony on your guitar, like that is mind-blowing in itself, is that I know there are people out there who don't have the skill set yet or even the financial ability to buy a full MIDI keyboard. So this is something that's possibly going to open the doors for people who haven't used apps like Strings for their songs and stuff like that. So every app that I try and review or just show has to have a point. I just don't want to get to the point where I'm just, because I've done a few shows like that and regretted it, where I'm going, here's an app and here's all the sounds and buy. Instead, I like to do, here's an app and here's what you can actually do with it. Here's something that I've created from it. There's got to be a point to help people's minds be open to their own creativity, I think.
Yeah, I agree, and I think something really good's happened, and it happened before you started this whole series, and that was, and look, it's good and bad, because I know some people relied on this for their income. So again, like the gear stuff, like the problems I have with gear and affiliate links, there used to be an affiliate program for Apple with apps. So if you recommended an app, you would be able to provide a link, and if someone bought the app through that link, just like any other affiliate, then that person would get a commission. So there were a lot of creators, some of them that did absolutely the right thing, that just still reviewed apps 100% honestly. Yep. And then, to be honest, there were other reviewers that would just, every app was fantastic. Every app was marvelous. Every app was magnificent, because it was in their vested interest that you buy as many of these as possible. So instead of, like you say, being selective, and like I do with gear and with apps, being selective and picking the ones that I like. And if, to be honest, you won't generally know the apps and the gear that I don't like, because I won't review it. If you could see the behind the scenes stuff, but some of the folks over on Patreon know this. But again, that was a very subtle plug to join me on Patreon. Some of the patrons know this because I share some of the behind the scenes stuff. I get offered a lot of gear and a lot of apps, and I get sent a lot of gear and a lot of free apps. And the reason that you don't hear about some of these is that they're not very good. Like they don't do the thing that they are trying to do. But I'm not going to go out there and bag them, because, hey, they're still a creator, a developer trying to do a thing. And I'm more on the positive side, that I'm going to find the things that I think my community will actually like and will get value out of, and will help them create, record, and release their best music. So if I put that filter over everything I do, which is, will this help the Studio Live community create, record, and release their best music? If the answer is no, it normally sits on the shelf, or I send a very polite email back saying, thank you very much for the opportunity. I wish you all the best and all the success in the world. Whereas if it's something that's really cool, like recently, I went about analyzing. In fact, they're sitting right here, and I'm still playing with them. The reason they're still out is that I've been playing with them. Yeah. And these are the Aero Band air drums. And I thought that when I first got the email about these, I'm like, gimmicky. I don't usually do this sort of thing. I'm not going to do it. And they kind of kept sort of emailing me, and eventually I'm like, okay, look, send them, but I give you no promises. And I've learnt this over time, that I don't promise anything, because if I get something and I pull it out of the box and I'm just like, oh, this is not going to do a thing, then yeah, it's not worth doing it. That being said, I wanted to do another video on how to record drums with them. But as it turns out, the software and the apps, they're not quite there. Like, they don't have the ability. They've got no inter-app audio. I'm still kind of working on a way. I'll probably actually ask Jade for help. I'm still working on a way to get the sound from that app. Maybe I need to use AUM or something. But the sound from that app into GarageBand to record them. But at the moment, they're kind of a fun thing. Like, if you were learning drums, or if you didn't have a drum kit and you wanted to spend a couple $100, it's actually a good deal. But yeah, I know that was a long ranty way, but it is the Rant show. Ranty way to say that, yeah, even for me and for you, I know when you get to the very privileged point of people offering to give you stuff, it's kind of the next level gear acquisition syndrome. And people are like, oh, a big violin out for Pete and Jade because they get offered too much stuff for free. But yeah, again, because integrity is important to me, and I know it is to you. I'm not going to be a shill for anyone to say, hey, this is good, when I know that it's not going to actually deliver.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not popular enough to have people offering me things. I do ask specific developers that I think their apps are going to be good, and say, hey, man, I think this. Would you kindly offer your app for me to have a look at? I'll just say hello. There's a few more people that have popped in here. So Russ is here. David Asher.
Ooh.
I'm just scrolling through. Nick Hamby. Hello. Sion, welcome aboard, my friend. Who else have we got here? Scrolling down. Danny Broderick, welcome along to the chat. Doug from the Sound Test Room. Hello, Doug. How are you, my friend? I think Joe.
Doug's on the good side. You know how I said the app reviewers before? Yeah. When I was saying there's people that do it well and that do it right, that's Doug. Doug will review a lot of apps, but he'll tell you what he thinks. Love it.
And Synth Widow is here, Joe. Hello as well. So welcome aboard, you guys. Yeah, look, since we're talking about apps and stuff, yourself, Doug is one of the major influencers who I watch every stream I possibly can, because he's just an amazing artist as well. I think that's the other thing, and I'm just going to say it now, because I remember when I started this channel, I actually asked if Doug would come on the show to interview him on my Friday show, and it's something that he doesn't do, but I would love for him to come on, because I think his music is amazing. I have all of his music on Apple Music and Bandcamp. I'm a massive fan of his music, not only his app shows. So, because we have, just speaking about gear acquisition and apps, we are living in an amazing time at the moment. Let's just segue onto live streaming and YouTube content creators. I just before this show got off from watching Jacob Hack's live stream for his new Agonizer app, and what an amazing time we are in for all these just amazing people who sit there and put the time into showing off these apps and showing their creativity. I mean, we're so blessed by the whole YouTube creator thing at the moment. What's your take on how everything's heading with that as a long-time creator yourself?
Yeah, and look, I'd say long-time creator. I mean, I'm doing it for 5 years, but only sort of full on for the last 2 years. And I took a lot of inspiration from folks like Doug at the Sound Test Room. And if you're not subscribed to the Sound Test Room, go over and do that now. Same with the GarageBand Guide. I know most of you already are, but they are really excellent resources for information. But yeah, where it's going with the creator stuff is interesting. And funnily enough, yesterday we had a YouTube outage. YouTube went down for about an hour. The world kind of melted. And it did get me thinking, because I was a bit unpopular, that I made a couple of comments on a few places where I'm like, well, you know what? When you're living in a rented property, sometimes the landlord pulls the plug on the power or puts the eviction notice up. And that's, I think, the key thing we got to remember. Every time I start feeling a little bit down, I'm like, oh no, my YouTube watch time went down this month, or my YouTube revenue went down this month. I stop and think and go, I'm old enough to remember the days where you had a GeoCities site with 10 megabytes of storage, and if you were lucky, you could stick 2 real media video clips up there of about a minute each at 56K resolution, and that was it. And if you wanted anything more, you'd have to set up your own frickin' server with a bunch of 56K modems so that people could download your stuff. We're now in a world where we have free platforms like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter that you can just stream live to. Right now, what we're doing, you can create videos in high res and upload them and share them with the world, and you get to do all of this stuff for free. Now, I know free in quotation marks, because the reason it's free is you get advertising and you get your data collected and then you get sold to. So yes, free is not ever actually free, but compared to where we could be and what we could have, it's actually kind of ridiculous that you and I and everyone else can actually do this for free, and we have a business model where it can actually work. I left the corporate world 6 weeks ago, and I could only do that because we live in the future, and I could do this stuff full time now because we have the technology available. So I'm never going to get out there and rant on YouTube and their practices and what they do and their advertising. I'm never going to rant on Spotify not paying artists enough money, because I know that we just simply didn't have the ability to do this in the past, and now that we do, I'm actually pretty bloody grateful for it. That's my take on it.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of people crying about the YouTube went down yesterday, and I was one of them. I messaged you and went, YouTube's gone down, because I was waiting for a couple of live streams that I watch every day, and they didn't happen.
Yeah.
I've just put up on the screen here too. So we mentioned GeoCities. Here's a great website. For anybody who doesn't know what GeoCities is, this is what a GeoCities website used to look like. Oh my God, look at the gaudiness of that. We've come a long way, folks, from the internet. This is an actual website where you can generate your website into a GeoCities site. It's a GeoCitiesizer. Just to get on.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. If you want to send people away in droves,
like a 13-year-old in 1996. Yeah, I wasn't much older than 13 in 1996, so I definitely made some GeoCities pages. And what was the other one? It was like a little Tripod, which was like the cost version. There was a few of these, and they're basically like the old version of like the free things. So you got Wix now, and you got what's the one? Squarespace, the ones that sponsor all the channels.
Yeah.
Haven't sponsored my channel. Where are you, Squarespace? Why are you giving me 40% off? But yeah, it was weird. It was everywhere, and people would do that. And I know you're a MySpace fan, so it was the dawn of that. You had the under construction guy digging, and you had the flashing icons and emojis and things going on, and then that kind of moved over to MySpace, and then Web 2.0 happened, and everything had to be clean and neat and smooth and bubbly fonts and lines and things. But part of me actually misses the old. I was thinking about it. I'm old enough to again remember dial-up modems, and without getting into an old man rant, but again it's the rant show. I remember the days of dial-up modems and downloads. Talking of apps and software, downloading freeware and shareware versions of things where you'd be like, oh, cool, there's a new Commander Keen game out. Oh, cool, there's a new audio recorder you didn't call it app, audio recorder program for DOS. I'm going to download this on my local bulletin board. You dial in there and you download like a 2 megabyte file on your 56K modem. It would take an hour. And there was no multitasking, so you couldn't do anything else while it was downloading. Yeah. And then you get this new piece of software, you download it, you install it, and you work out that there was some weird driver you needed, or you had some sort of DMA conflict that you couldn't work out. So it's a different world. Again, every time I get frustrated, and I must admit I get frustrated when my kids come to me, they're like, Dad, the Wi-Fi's down. And I'm like, when I was a kid, we didn't have your fancy Wi-Fi. So but I do have to think that it's all about perception, isn't it? It's all about what you grew up with and what you had. And I think I'm going to be eternally grateful for the amazing technology we have, more so than someone who's just getting into it now, who's like, oh man, this thing's not going as fast as I want it to. Whereas I'm like, I'm just amazed that it goes at all.
I'm going to go somewhere dark like I always do. And, porn used to come down at such a slow speed. It would have been perfect for the amount of meth heads there are in this world these days. Anyway, what I was going to say about YouTube going down yesterday, I don't know if anybody noticed that it went down, and then all of our YouTube apps on our iOS devices all have a new UI on them. If you've noticed, the notifications are now up the top in the corner. So, and I didn't actually even download anything yesterday, a new update. So could that have been the thing? They were messing with the UI for the mobile, and they had to take it down for a little while to bump everything up, because there's a whole bunch of conspiracy theorist videos that have come up saying that it's the new world order, and it's all got to do with 5G, and all our brains are melting because of it, and it's a fight against the devil. But that's another story.
The reason that the reason I don't go along with that, I go along with very many conspiracy theories, but the reason I don't do that is that YouTube are smart enough that if they're doing a deliberate forced update, they don't do it right at the end of the peak US viewing time. They do it in the middle of your night, which is our afternoon, where everything just goes to sleep. So anytime from about midday on till about 5 p.m. when the US is sleeping, everything shuts down. So as Jade and I know, and anyone who's a creator knows, the reason that I get up at 4 o'clock every morning and I work till midday is that's the time you people are all around and awake. And I know for the folks in the UK, it's slightly different time zones, but let's be honest, the US are the number one market, and they're the number one market for YouTube. So if they're going to do anything nefarious like that, or if they're going to deliberately bring themselves down, they wouldn't, because that would have cost them several mil in advertising revenue, just that 1 hour. Yeah. So they're not going to do that on purpose. And then if they did do it, they would do it in the absolute least peak time they can. But it is interesting. It's funny, and I really dislike this, and I will go negative for 1 second. But I've now got my. Can I show? Yeah, it won't actually show up there because of the lights in here, so it's really pointless me showing you that. But at the top of my YouTube screen now, because I'm a YouTube Premium member,
same here. Yeah.
There's a button here that says Your Premium Benefits, and I tap on that, and here's some interesting stats for you. Premium benefits enjoyed so far: ad-free videos, more than 500 hours of ad-free videos I've had. background play more than 350 hours, and I've listened to 10 hours on YouTube Music, but I've watched 0 videos offline. So I'm obviously always online and doing things. And then it's got some recommendations from me. And the reason I dislike this, it's kind of like my insurance company when they send me an email that they're like, you saved $100 by having 2 policies together last year. Like, don't tell me what I did. I know what I did. Tell me what you're going to do for me in the future. So if YouTube want to tell me something cool, say, we're adding a new feature and we're going to give it to you for free and here's what it is. But I don't know, the whole here's the benefits that we've given you for the service that you pay us for, I don't know. I always find those a little bit pointless. And if anything, they make me go, actually, yeah, I should probably shop around and try some other services then if that's what you're giving me. So I don't know. But yeah, if you YouTube Premium, jump in there and check it out. Do you have your stats?
Yeah.
Yep.
2,920 hours ad-free, 110 hours of background play, 16 minutes of YouTube Music. So I've actually listened to it a little bit. So.
You've actually used it, yeah. And the weird thing is that it says that I've been a member since the 25th of September 2020, which I absolutely haven't, but I think that might be when they changed it from something else. It used to be YouTube Red, and then I think that's when they switched from Google Play Music to YouTube Music and integrated everything together. Does yours say 20th of September? Or was you ever since?
I actually joined this year. For the first time. I put up with the ads for a long time.
For a long time.
29th of February this year.
Thank you to everyone who does put up with you. Couldn't do it without you. Appreciate it.
So say hello to Tom Scalane, who's joined late. Welcome aboard. And Wal, welcome aboard too. Wal says, what did I say? He's taking a break from doing some music, I think. Where was it? Did I say that? Well, this has distracted me from me-rack for a little bit. Hi, all.
Hello. Welcome to everybody. Thank you for being here too.
That was going to lead me into something else from YouTube. And so that's what I was going to say as well. The death of Google Play. It's gone. It's officially gone. I think, was it today or yesterday? It was only
I made the transition. Yeah, and which is a bit sad because I did like Google Play and Google Play Music, but no, the Alphabet have put all their eggs in the YouTube basket now.
Yep.
And if you didn't know, Google Play, so if you had a YouTube Premium membership or a Google Play Music membership, you would get the opposite one. So it used to be 2 things called YouTube Red, which was your paid YouTube thing that meant you paid $10 a month and you didn't get ads. And then it was the same Google Play Music had a subscription service as well, and you could kind of be either. It was super confusing to try and work out, but I've been a Google Play Music subscriber for a while because I got the YouTube Red for free. And for someone like me that watches a lot of YouTube videos, I wanted to do that. The other feature that I love is the background play. So you would have heard that I've got a lot of that. I listen to more videos than I watch.
Same.
So I do a lot of walking, and whenever I'm out walking, I'll just have videos on in the background. And that's why I like folks like Patrick and Doug, because they'll even if they're demoing something, they'll be talking about it as well. So I don't see a lot of this stuff. I will hear it, and then if there's something I really want to see, I'll go and look at it. But I'm often listening, and the beauty of that is, if you got the YouTube Premium, sound like an ad for it now. If you got the YouTube Premium, you can go ahead and turn off your phone or turn the screen off, put it in your pocket, and it doesn't play back the video, which means it uses less bandwidth, less battery life, and you can have it off, or you can be doing other things. If you're out walking around, I'll often be listening to someone's video while I'm actually answering comments in the YouTube Creator app, because there's a separate app for YouTube creators to do that. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I think it was really just a branding thing that YouTube want everything to be under that YouTube banner. They know that YouTube's exploded. People didn't know what Google Play was. They thought you had to have Android to have Google Play, which was one of the problems. And they thought that it was the Google Play Store as opposed to the Google Play streaming service. So yeah, there was confusion there. So I think it was a matter of time. But yeah, they've pulled the plug. RIP Google Play Music.
Which is not unusual for Google too, because they have a history of pulling the plug on many failed projects, especially in the Mail app. The Mail app is just, wow, how many things in that have they gone, hey, here's this cool thing, you can chat with people in your Mail app and have friends with faces and weird, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? Get this shit out of my mail. I just want to check my mail. And I'll tell you, yesterday we finished on this live streaming stuff with YouTube and stuff yesterday. I really noticed how much I don't watch fucking TV. I was lost. I was completely lost. All of my content that I take in, all my news, all my music stuff, is all on YouTube. So, you know, and I have a TV. I can access, you know, Netflix and all that stuff anytime I want. But I was lost because all my political stuff that I watched during the day here was gone. And I was so lost, I actually jumped on Facebook and live streamed playing GTA for 2 hours. That's how desperate I was for something to do. I was like, I've got nothing to watch. YouTube's gone. Just to touch also on the cost of premium. In Australia, folks, you guys who are in the US and the UK, our dollar is worth jack shit.
Considerably less.
YouTube Premium for us is what, $20 odd, $21 a month. It's up there. It's expensive.
Yeah, I can't even. I have the family plan. I must. If you have a family, I don't know, most of us have at least some form of family, but the family plan is actually cool because I've got. You can have up to 5 accounts, and I can't remember what I pay a month, but something like $30 a month. But everyone in my family doesn't get ads, which is good because I don't want my children. I don't want them watching that much YouTube, but they do because, you know, hands up parents who have all the best intentions to not just hand a tablet to their children, but sometimes need some bloody peace and quiet. But yeah, when they are watching things on YouTube, I don't want them to see all the heinous YouTube ads. And I say the heinous YouTube ads knowing that they actually then feed said children through those heinous YouTube ads. So no standard like a double standard, hey? But yeah, if you want to get away from that, it's actually pretty cool because everyone then gets their own YouTube Music account, which can be separately customized. So my wife can have her Tim Minchin and all the boys that she loves to listen to, that she wishes were her husband, and I can have all of my heavier stuff, and I can have all my Tool albums in there. And then you can have your own separate profiles, and then everyone has their own YouTube account and can get ad-free and background play YouTube. So again, without it sounding like an ad for YouTube, because obviously I've just bagged them in the same sense. I've said I love using them, but it is actually a good service. And the reason that I don't use Apple Music or Spotify, like people send me Spotify links and they're shocked, absolutely shocked that I don't have a Spotify premium account. And I say
Same here. It's
the same 70 million songs that are on every service. And that'll change. Actually, that could be a good rant for if we've got time. We're going to run out of time for all these ranting. But that will change because what we're going to see with streaming is at the moment, everything has everything. Yeah. So if you're a Beatles fan, they're on everything now. If you're a Katy Perry fan, they're on everything. We've started seeing the same thing happening in music streaming as is happening in video streaming, which is exclusive content deals. Joe Rogan was the first one. Spotify paid him $1,012 to have his podcast on Spotify. So that's going to be exclusively on Spotify. So if I was a Joe Rogan fan, which I'm absolutely not, then I would have to get myself a Spotify account if I wanted to actually have that. My concern is it's going to be the Netflix model. So at the moment, if you want to watch a movie or a show, you kind of have to go through and say, is it on Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus or Apple, or I'm sure I'm forgetting some Stan here in Australia that we've got. They're about Amazon Prime. There's about 5 or 6 or 7 now different streaming platforms. So we are at the point with TV where we thought we would get to with music. But the problem is it's completely segmented, and they're all doing their own premium sort of exclusive content that they're creating themselves. So Netflix are doing their own shows, Amazon are doing their own shows, but they're also going out there, and it's kind of the highest bidder is going to be the one who gets the particular shows. So we've seen Seinfeld jump from one service to another. Friends has jumped from one service to another. So for the consumer, if you want everything, you kind of have to have 5 accounts. And my concern with music streaming, to get a bit off topic, is that we're going to have the same thing. Can you imagine if, who's a popular artist, Drake? Drake comes out and signs a deal with Spotify, and suddenly Drake is not on YouTube Music, he's not on Apple Music, he's just on Spotify, because Spotify drove a truckload of money and just backed it up into his house. That could be a problem for us moving forward for the music community. And you might say, well, I'm an independent artist, I'll just put my stuff out everywhere. Yeah, but someone's paying for this at the end of the day. So if you get your stuff out everywhere, if that one user is only on Spotify because of that, then they're spending money on these exclusive deals. It means they're going to have less money in their cash flow to give to independent artists for streaming. So if you think your 1/3 of a cent per stream is bad now, wait till they're having to pay exclusive deals to artists. That's going to go down even more. So yeah, just something I'll be mulling over. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's going to lead into the next topic really well, my thoughts on it, because Look, I'm still waiting for Apple to come through with this amazing Apple TV that's going to revolutionize TV. Steve Jobs promised it so long ago, and they still haven't delivered on it. And it's getting to this point now where they're going to have to integrate all these services. Whoever is the company that can really seamlessly integrate all of these separate services that are splitting further apart into one place. And Apple's, I think they're trying to head there with this login for Apple for websites. They want to get that happening with everyone. It's going to be hard to convince all these websites like Spotify and all that to all do it, even though Spotify lets you log in through Facebook and all this shit. I have a feeling like there's going to be a big change with something like Facebook soon. Facebook's going to die soon. I think through all this election stuff that's happened and all of the nonsense with bullshit news stories and fake news and all this, I think Facebook's starting to fall apart. We've already got not get to get political or anything here, but there's a segment of people who are starting to move away for their political views, and this is going to happen, I think, for people with music tastes and video tastes and content tastes, because Facebook's fucking boring. All right, it is. We all look the same there. We've all got the same looking page. You know, you touched on before that I love MySpace. The reason I love MySpace, even though it was gaudy at times, it was about content, music, and it was about bringing us together and letting us fuck with our pages to express who we are. And Facebook doesn't allow us to do that. And I think we're heading to a time where, you know, even with music content, people are wanting to use their own service, this service, whatever, to suit their own taste. So people are going to want to express themselves more. And that is heading into this whole music industry versus recording home studio stuff at the moment. Because I'm of the opinion, and everybody who watches my show will know this, we are seeing a revolution right now. And it may be small and just a little groundswell, but we are heading into a revolution where currently, because of COVID, many artists, and I bring it up, Madonna all the time, are totally like a deer in headlights at the moment. They don't know what the fuck to do because they don't have their studios around to support them. They don't have their media people around to support them. They're not savvy people like Ben Folds or someone like that who immediately was doing live streams from a hotel room and moving with it. So there's going to be more opportunities for people who are independent artists and home studios, and this is a thing that we are, you know, I know I'm not a teacher as such. I'm just talking shit each day about stuff I like and trying to put it into motion, but I'm seeing just in the last 6 months many creative people just shoot for the stars and shoot way above them, and it's happening.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I've seen and noticed the same thing. And my views on this have been the same for a long time. I always compare it back to things like the newspaper industry and like any industry, the taxi industry with Uber, any industry that has been revolutionized in the last 10, 20, 30 years. There's been two types of people as part of this industry. There's been those that have seen the change, embraced the change, adapted to the change, and are continuing to have success, if not the same level, more success, because they've been able to adapt to the changing technology. And there've been people that have been dragged kicking and screaming, saying, no, we like our old model, we want our old model, you can't take it away from us, spending all their time worrying about the shit that they can't control instead of worrying about their own stuff that they can actually do. And I think this is what I'm pushing as a positive agenda, as not a negative agenda, but a positive one, not to fear change, not to say change is bad. There have always been and will always be big corporations. There has always been and it will always be money to be made out of everything. And there will always be nefarious people who use those tools and use those resources to do bad things. But there's always been good people as well, trying to do the right thing and trying to actually help people. So I look at it in terms of, I was talking to someone about this today. I think it was Happy Ron. Now, we know Happy Ron. He puts out some really good, thoughtful posts on Facebook, of all places. And he asked the question today about, it was like a Yoda quote, and it was about influence and control and things. And I always say this, that I think where people get into trouble is that they worry 100% about stuff they can't control, and they don't worry enough about what they can control and what they can influence. And I've always preached an 80-20 rule, which is you should be focusing 80% on your own shit, what you can control, what's going on in your own world, 20% on what you can influence, what you can actually positively have an influence on in the world, and then zero fucks about things that are outside of your control. There you go. You have one F-bomb. You get one out of me for the whole show. But a lot of people are just spending so much time. All the whining I see online and all the negative people are worrying about what other people are doing instead of looking in their own backyard and going, I should probably tidy up my own stuff here rather than complaining about what everyone else is doing. So that's kind of been my man. I think that'll be my 2021 mantra, which will be 80-20, control, influence. Everything outside of that, I'm just going to let it happen because, and look, some people may say that's a bad attitude because you've got to spend more time trying to influence change and trying to drive things. But I think you can actually, I've said it before, it's like the oxygen mask. If I'm so worked up and so angry about everything that's going on in the world that I can't control, that I can't actually have that positive influence the 20% of the time that I can do it, then what am I doing? Like, I'm not going to be able to have anything positive in the world. So I know that sounds a little bit hippy-dippy, but I am a bit hippy-dippy, so go figure.
No, and look, we all have our own ways of doing things, and there is no right way to do things. And most people who know me on Facebook, I'm very, can be very angry, but there's always a slant of humor to it. And it's mainly, if there's any anger, it's normally aimed at Donald Trump. That's all it is, only because I lived in America and the stuff has gone on there towards trans people has been quite despicable. And I was one of those people, and it's angered me for a long time. But in relation to the way the world's changing with music, I've been upfront with this show too. I didn't actually set out to really teach anybody anything with this show. Due to my poor health, this show was only started to get me out of bed each day and have something to focus on. But what it has given me more than anything, apart from the joy that is just fills my heart. It sounds soppy as shit. So much joy fills my heart to see so many talented people amongst these chats and on the Facebook groups we associate in, creating such amazing stuff. And to know that even I had a fraction to do with that, it's just mind-blowing. But what it has done for me too, doing this show, is my creativity has shot through the roof as well. Because I was staggering along there, having all this gear acquisition syndrome, building all this stuff up, and I actually still had no idea exactly what I was going to do with it. And only a few months later, here we are, and it's all being used, it seems, every day, which is... I can't thank people enough, and it's just because, like, and everybody's getting something from it. It's that circle of kindness that's going around, which I think is absolutely beautiful. And it's something that you talk about a lot, which a lot of the stuff you say I just love about even social media. Since we've touched on Facebook, there's got to be some give. If you're going, hey, listen to my music, you've got to reciprocate and care about other people's music as well. It's a really, or you're just gonna wonder why nobody's listening, clicking your links. Right? We can say till the cows come home, oh, it's because Facebook's algorithm doesn't like YouTube stuff. No, it's not that. If you're not supporting other people and there isn't that interaction, then nobody's going to give a fuck about you. It just is what it is. And I hate that saying as much as anyone else, but it is.
Yeah, it is true. Like that, every time I hear the word algorithm, I know we're going down a rabbit hole that is just someone pushing the blame somewhere else and not taking personal accountability. Because there's some stuff that happens in the world that sucks, and I'm not here to say isn't everything wonderful and you've always got to have a positive attitude. No, sometimes things suck. You got to get angry and you feel bad about things, and that's just reality. But worrying to the point where you're like, oh, no one's listening to my music because of an algorithm, you got zero chance of influencing YouTube or Facebook's algorithm, like zero. Yeah. So that's 100% one of the things that you should just leave. Like, understand it. Here's the thing. The 20% influence stuff you can do is get out there and learn about it. If you're really that worried about it, go out there and learn about it. There's things that you can know. And the one tip, like I know we've been ranting a lot here, but I'll give one tip to anyone who wants to increase what their coverage and their leverage and whatever you want to do on social media, is that whenever these new platforms put out a new thing, use it. So the reason that Facebook and YouTube and all these things are testing these things is that they want to know if they work or not. And they push those things artificially. Mm-hmm. So YouTube at the moment is starting a new shorts thing. They're going to start pushing that out around the world. It's a TikTok competitor at 60-second vertical videos. I don't like 60-second vertical videos.
Yeah.
You may. That's irrelevant. The thing is, YouTube are pushing them out there. So if you are trying to get more leverage and more coverage with more people, it would be in your best interest to try to make some 60-second short videos. Now, does that mean you have to? No. But if you're going to sit around and complain about the algorithm that you're not getting pushed out to viewers and you're not doing those things, then it's kind of, you got to look on both sides of that. So yeah, if there's a new feature, try it, use it. The hashtag thing in YouTube, I used that. I don't think that did much. I think that kind of died on its ass, like you say, with a lot of things with Google. They just try something because Instagram were doing it, so they tried it. The stories thing, the stories in the community tab on YouTube, I find fascinating. I put out like, people may not know this, but if you have more than 1,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel, which Jade, you're about to hit, I know you're going to get there in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, and if you're not subscribed, by the way, do subscribe right now to Jade's channel. But that being aside, yeah, once you have more than 1,000, you get access, or is it 5,000 or 10,000? I'll probably just ruin things for you now, Jade. You're like, yes, and then but you get the community tab, and I put questions out there to people. I put polls out there. I put back behind the scenes posts. Sometimes they get more views than my actual videos. So I'll just do like a 15-second story saying, hey, I'm at the pub having a beer and I thought about this cool thing about this app. And then people will start commenting and watching that. So I'm like, yeah, if again, I'd say all of that to say if you're complaining about the things like algorithms and things outside of your control, either don't complain or learn what you can do to do things differently.
Yeah, and look, one thing I'll say on this whole home recording revolution, and you know, since we're talking about Facebook and all of that, and all these new gimmicky things, and look, I'm the worst. Twitter has been one of those things that's introduced us to short messages. It's affected news services. It's affected what we watch. It's TikTok, all these things. Everybody just doesn't want to take in a whole song. People just scan forward to listen to the chorus and skip. And even things like dating has moved to things like that with Tinder and swiping left. And people just don't, they feel like they don't have the time to invest in it. When you do, you actually do have plenty of time. 2020's really shown us that we got plenty of fucking time. All right? Plenty of time. So, you know, if the time's there, you don't always have to be creative as well. But what I want to get to, this last point on this subject before moving on, is the way to get your music happening or whatever it is you're creating to a better place, instead of blaming an algorithm, is take the people around you with you. Create the playlists on Spotify yourself with your communities. Support each other, and that is how we create these ground roots music industries within a larger music industry, which we know is fucked. We know it's fucked because we're getting 0.00 cents per stream, and it's a rip-off. It's an absolute bullshit situation. So if we all bring each other up at the same time, everyone's just going to get better and better and better, and not necessarily take over from the big major artists, but expose the industry for what it is without being a revolutionary person and feeling like you have to change. It's a natural thing just by caring about each other's stuff.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And yeah, again, the home recording revolution, as it has been, if you look at it from any angle, it has been a complete revolution. And I know I've ranted about this a bunch, and I had plenty of old man rants today, but going from 20 years ago, get off my lawn, 20 years ago on a 4-track Tascam Porta Studio and recording on that, and then over the years, like going to MIDI and then going to digital and then going to PC and now going to iOS, that has been ridiculous. Again, if you went back 20 years and you said, this is what you'll be recording on, you'll grab your phone and you'll be plugging microphones and guitars directly into your phone and recording that and getting better quality than you would have on tape back in the day. Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. So it's caught up from that sense. And you're right in terms of the community. Again, I'll point to the GarageBand users group and the fact that we've gone from, we hit 1,000 members, and I remember that vividly. That was a couple of years ago, and we're about to hit 10,000. So that's 10x growth. 10x growth in anything is ridiculous, but in something like home recording, and yes, 2020 has given that a giant kick in the guts. No doubt about that. People have got involved, which is great because they've had time to do things. The big challenge, 2021, number one challenge and kind of the focus of my channel. I mean, my focus of my channel has always been create, record, release your best music. It's always been about empowering everyone to create their best music, regardless of who they are, where they are, and what gear they have. It will continue to be that, but and I'm talking about it in my home studio Q&A show this week because I get asked about time management so much. I know we're talking about this. It's probably a good segue into the next one, but time management, where do you get the time to do what you do? And when I was working full-time and doing Studio Live today full-time, people would say to me, where do you get the time to do what you do? What's your secret? What can I do differently? And I really think that in 2021, that's what I want to focus in on, is encouraging and motivating people. I mean, I don't want to be no motivating speaker. I'm not motivational speaker. I'm not going to be like Oprah up there telling you what you should and shouldn't do. But I think, like you said, oftentimes we're good at making excuses, but we're not good at making plans. And what I mean by that is that we can say all the reasons why we can't do things, but some simple planning around what we can do can actually make the big difference. And I know I've said to you before that when I first started this channel, I had to make some sacrifices. Used to love gaming. Used to game about 10 hours a week. I stopped that cold turkey, just stopped playing the PS4 entirely and pushed that 10 hours into creating this channel and creating videos. They were crappy videos. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was creating them and putting them out there. And then over time, I grew that and I realized that I liked it and it was engaging. So I found other pockets of time. And again, as long as you're not taking away from the things that are actually things you want to do, and you still need some dick around time, we'll talk about that in a minute, I'm sure, as well, then you're going to be more fulfilled. But I think the problem is I was doing this and other people are doing this. They're like, I have a family and a full-time job and a mortgage and a dog and a front yard and a backyard and I'm going to mow the lawns and whatever. So we work out what we can't do because we've got all these things that we have to do, all these obligations, without realizing that we actually watched 20 hours of Netflix last week. We actually spent 5 hours scrolling our Instagram feed. We went 5 hours arguing with some idiot on Facebook that we don't even know about something that doesn't actually matter. So that's all time that you can invest in yourself. And being selfish about creativity in a good way, I think, is something that's super important that a lot of folks miss.
Yeah. And you don't have to spend a lot of time each week creating, as long as what you are doing is focused, and you allot that time, and have an actual. It's the same thing as what I started off with today about buying a new Mac Mini. Mm-hmm. Have a point. Yep. Like, have a goal, have some that you want to do. It's like when I bought all this stuff, I bought all these lights, a green screen. I'm going, what the fuck am I buying all this shit for? It turns out now, the last 2 months especially, I shot that video clip. It's all just fallen into place, and because there was an actual goal behind it. So, but let's move on to the next point, because we are going to talk about stress and burnout.
Yep.
Because, look, I go through it once a week, probably twice a week, stress and burnout. Far from perfect. You know what, folks? Perfection doesn't exist. And if you're trying to reach it, fucking stop, because you're wasting your time.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
But I still, nearly turning 50 soon, or 49 next year, 48 now. I'm still chasing perfectionism for some stupid reason, and this is helping me let go, and I'm finding that I'm having less stress because of. But each week I fall back into it, and now I've got post-it notes up here on my monitor and stuff that says, "Don't stress, don't stress." That stupid little thing in the last 2 weeks has actually helped massively. So, what kind of tips do you have for helping with stress and burnout?
Yeah. So there's a few things that I do. So I by the way, I'm not immune from this. I still do suffer from stress and anxiety and burnout, and I get tired and I get frustrated and emotional. Everyone does. And I think number one thing is to accept it and to just own it and realize that you don't have to be. I think, as you said, trying to strive for perfection, it's not possible, and B, it's purely subjective. And you are generally, especially creative types, we are generally our own worst enemies. So no one is judging you as hard as you're judging yourself. That's a really hard thing to come to terms with, because we think, and I get this. So a practical example is I get emails, and I have a lot of emails in my inbox, and my level of anxiety grows as those emails sit there and age, because I think in my head, I think that I'm letting down every single person that's emailed me, and that until I actually respond to that person's email, that they're sitting there thinking what a dick Pete is because he hasn't responded to my email. The reality of that situation is that they're just going about their life. They're not giving me or that email a second thought. So I think I've had to, in recent times, come to terms with the fact that you're not that important. I'm not that important. No one is thinking about you as much as you think others are thinking about you. It's actually a super positive and liberating thing to realize, because if you are up in your own head, especially if you're an introvert, especially if you're a creative type, we spend a lot of time worrying about what other people are thinking. Not that they're going to judge us on the quality of what we do, but worrying that we're letting them down, or that they're thinking about what we're doing in a negative way. So that's probably the number one tip. It's hard to do, and it's been hard for me, and it continues to be hard for me to just let go of that sort of stuff. But that has been super important. And the other side of it is exactly what you said before, is start with the end in mind. So there's Simon Sinek. If you want to read some motivational stuff, read a bunch of Simon Sinek books, because he has a really good view on this. And he has a book called Start With Why. And it's exactly what you said before. It's have a purpose, have an end goal, have something that you are actually trying to do, as opposed to just starting. And it's weird because I have two goals. I have two things I say, which is create, record, release. So don't just do the creating and the recording. Finish it, ship it, get it out there. I also say if you don't know where to start, just start. So they may be two completely contradicting points, but really what I'm saying is, yeah, if you know what you're going to do, start and go through to the end. If you know, your goal could be, I just want to spend 30 minutes a day playing music. I don't want to create a whole song. I don't want to do anything. So the key point there is your end goal is 30 minutes of music a day. You don't actually have a thing that you're producing. What you're producing is 30 minutes of music every day. So when I say, start with why, start with the end in mind, don't overdo it either. Don't say, I got to record a whole album. Otherwise, you'll get into complete overwhelm. You got to chunk it down to what you can actually do and what you can control. So, yeah, I know that was, again, every time I apologize for ranting. See, I'm even doing it now. I'm apologizing for ranting on a show about ranting that people are choosing to watch. I need to stop.
They just want to hear you say fuck. That's all.
You got your one.
You got one. We might be able to slip another one in, folks. Don't worry about it. I'll just, if you just pop some money in Pete's PayPal for another fuck, and we'll get another one out there. So
I could so do super chats for F-bombs. I might try that on today's show.
There's an idea. I'll just say hello to Jessica Jan, who I've seen in the chat as well, and Lady Rodaline as well. Good to see you. I love having more ladies in. I've noticed lately, I'll just talk about stats for a moment. I've seen the shift happen lately. I've talked about it in some of my shows. I know people watch the show and don't subscribe. And since I've been saying that, it's changed from about 50% to about 30% not subscribed now. And the amount of male to female ratio, females now 16%. Oh, yeah! That shit makes me happy as a peach.
That is cool. Yeah, hello. I think Ed Zielinski's in the chat there. I'm not sure if we said g'day to him as well. Thomas Galania said hello to. He said that even if he'd be watching, even if I made game. He said Warzone. I'm assuming that's a game. I'm so out of the gaming loop now that I don't know. Yeah, Bubba said earlier, just a shout out to you, Bubba. He said it's nice to see me let my hair down. Well, yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying that because it doesn't come down very often. But yeah, when it does, yeah, it feels good. And I do it over here on Jade's channel. So I come here and I throw all my F-bombs down here, and then I go back and be all PG-13 over on Studio Live today.
No, I love it too. Not only to have a rant, because, I regard you as one of my closest friends. I'm in constant contact with you all the time, ever since we kind of met. And I respect a lot of the stuff you do, a lot of stuff you say. I love going with you and watching you make mistakes and all that kind of stuff. And I love having you on, and I know I always have fantastic conversations with you. And speaking of, like, me and you, I've thrown this out there, so I'm going to bring it out live now. Fuck it. So what do you guys think about, so just to start off with, so Pete does his happy hour show every Sunday here in Australia, Saturday for you and the rest of the world. I'm going to do a opening show this week, because I used to do that, but I'm going to get back into doing it. Because I'm considering, and I've started looking into it, going over to Adelaide because Australia is opening up, and we're going to try and organise doing maybe 1 or 2 live shows in a venue with me and Pete playing live with opening act. Maybe one show I'll open for you, and maybe the other show you open for me. We'll do it in a cafe or something. And with all our technology that we have, I'm sure we'd be able to live stream it. So I thought I'd throw it out there just to see what you guys think about that, because I've already started looking at venues, and I know we'll work together on it closely as restrictions open up for me being able to even travel to Adelaide, because that's got to happen first. But I'm not saying it's happening like right now, but I'm saying probably early next year. That's to be likely.
Absolutely, and we can hit the Rundle Mall and do some live streamed busking together. That could be kind of.
Yeah, I don't know about the permits and stuff now. It's all changed. I know Sam's just.
I was going to say, we'll hit up Samantha Edge and get her to chaperone. She'll come along and show us all the good spots and how to stay out of trouble.
I was even thinking too, maybe we should do a show and get Sam on the bill as well.
Oh, there you
go. 3 of us. So we'll look into it. So let us know in the comments what you think about that. I think that's going to be fun. And that leads us into the final topic for today, taking risks.
Take some risks.
Man. I'm all about taking risks. I'm all about it. Just throw shit at the wall and see if it sticks. And you know what? The motto of this show is mistakes make you better. And that's another thing I have stuck up on this side of my monitor. You know, mistakes make you better. Let it slide. But throw that shit against the wall. See if it sticks. It's always easy to wipe it off the wall. I mean, it might be disgusting to do it, and you might have to look at it for a few seconds. You might get a bit on your hands, but you can always wipe it away and start again. So risk-taking is something essential, and I think it's something that's been missing from the music industry for the longest time, and this is why during COVID, so I'm going on my rant now, this is why many big artists are suffering right now, because they have forgotten how to take risks. There are just not enough artists in this world now who take risks. If you look back through the 70s and 80s, people like Boy George, who was this flamboyant gay guy wearing makeup. Back then, we were all like, oh my God, Boy George is amazing. These days, a trans person can't go and take a piss in a toilet. It's like, what happened to us, you know? Because I think as a society, as a race, we've forgotten how to take risks. Risks are a really important thing to take. And Facebook wouldn't exist if it wasn't for somebody taking a risk. YouTube wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be watching this on YouTube. Risk-taking is incredibly important. And exactly what Tom Rochelle has just written here, if you've never failed, you've never tried, and you'll never succeed. So, what do you think, Pete?
Fail early and fail often is Ed's advice to his teen daughter. And I'm at that point now with my kids, and it's interesting because obviously I get on my channel and I rant and I talk about the things that I do, and then I'm also a dad and I'm also a husband and I'm also a family member. So I try to preach the same things and the same motivation, which is that it is all right to fail. Not only is it all right to fail, go a step further, it's necessary to fail. If you're not failing at things, and fail in the micro, succeed in the macro. That's kind of the way I look at it, which is that if you fail at one thing one time, it doesn't matter. The beautiful part about the future is that you have if you're an arcade game player here in Australia, you used to get 20 cents and you'd pump it into your Space Invaders or your Pac-Man and you'd play it. It was quarters in the US, I'm sure, and I don't know, 10 pence. I don't know how much we'd pay. Anyway, you remember like when you'd go, and the ultimate thing would be if you got unlimited credits, like the machine would break, or you'd go to one of those lock-in sessions and you'd just get unlimited credits on the arcade games. That's the way the music industry is now. Some folks are still thinking Eminem's to blame. He said you got one shot. And you absolutely don't. You don't have one shot. You don't have one opportunity to wow it. It's not The Voice. You're not going to get Delta Goodrum hitting a button and therefore you can't ever make music ever again. No. You get unlimited credits, unlimited retries to do whatever the heck you want. So you can just keep trying and keep creating and keep doing things and see what works. Some of the best things that I've done have been happy accidents where I'm like, this seemed really stupid, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'll give you 2 examples because I'm a narcissist and I'm going to talk about myself. The 2 examples are that on my channel, I have a video where I show people how to remove gunk from their lightning port. And then I have another video showing how to remove gunk from your headphone jack with a toothpick. They are videos that I just made on a whim because I'm like, this is how I clean out my phone. And I noticed that sometimes when people plug in their lightning cable, it does that thing where it flicks on and on and off. If you just get a toothpick, give it a tiny little gentle scrape, you'll usually fix it. That video has 1.1 million views.
Of course it does.
That is the number one video on my entire channel. And I made it in about 10 minutes on an absolute whim because I thought, hey, some people I literally just wanted the video to point people to, because I kept getting comments saying, my lightning cable won't work. My headphones keep going on and off. And I'm like, fine, just do this. It'll fix it. So that was a risk that I took because, that's very not what my channel was about at the time. But I'm like, it's close enough. I'm just going to give it a crack. The other one was I wanted to find a way to showcase people's music. So on a whim, I'm like, I'm just going to do a show. What do I call it? Your Music Live. And I'll just do this one show, this one-off thing where I get people to send me their songs and I play their songs. And we're at number 21 that are happening this weekend, and that is now the most popular show on my channel. And it feels a bit wrong because I put a lot of effort into a lot of videos and a lot of live streams, a lot of tutorials. That show, I literally get up on a Saturday morning. I'll get up tomorrow morning. I'll open up my email and I'll turn on my live stream and I'll sit back with my coffee and go, what have people been creating? And I'll just start playing music. And I had no idea that that's what people wanted.
I told you, man, that was going to be crazy. I told you.
It's nuts. It's getting more viewers than any of my other shows. So, yeah, there's two examples of taking risks in music. And I think for you and I and for some of the collaborations you've done, so we did the Ben Folds song you heard at the start. That was obviously a risk. I didn't think I could sing a Ben Folds song. I did struggle through it and I did feel really uneasy doing it, but I did it. I got through there and I sent them over to you and you weaved your magic and ended up sounding good. The collaboration you're doing with Steve at the moment is awesome. That's going to get there, absolutely. And yeah, all of these things are risks. And I actually love the serendipity of just people coming together. So, and I always point to Saigon Slick and the Boston Bard. So shout out to my GarageBand user crew, but Ron Ward, Brian Bigler over on GBU, they got together because Brian wanted someone to sing on his Pink Floyd tune, Comfortably Numb. And Ron was like, I can sing that. I used to sing that in my band. And they recorded it, collaborated on GarageBand. Rest is history. They've now recorded something like 20 different songs. So I love that. And that was a risk again, because that was two dudes, one in Ho Chi Minh City, one in Boston, coming online, getting together. Hey, you like music? Yeah, I like music too. And it all goes back to that community thing you said before as well, which is that, yeah, if you're involved in the community, if both Ron and Brian were just pushing stuff out one way, that is, here's my music, and they weren't listening, didn't have their ears and their eyes open to what other people were doing, that just simply wouldn't have happened. So that's sort of my final point on this, is that the reason that I get stressed out that I'm not answering emails, that I'm not responding to comments, is that I want to make sure that I'm listening and seeing at least as much as I'm creating and putting out there, because I think sometimes we put the blinkers on and we just create, we just do, and we don't actually absorb what other people are doing. So yeah, that's my rant, and I won't apologize this time for the rant because it's the name of the bloody show.
So, you touched on Your Music Live. I remember messaging you straight after that show going, you're fucked now. Because that's going to be, it's going to go off, because people love having their music played. We all do. It just is what it is. And, let's circle back a little bit, back to this whole lifting people up. If you watch the show, you'll know there's a group of people that come in every fucking week who constantly bang on in the chat going, play my song, play my song, play my song, play my song. I sent you 10 emails. And it's really sad to see that. Like, it's hard to monitor it. And at the same time, I'm not an evil monitor. I don't try and tell people off in there. But I will let it get to a point and then go, nah, I'm going to stop you, because people are sick of it. Like, share the experience. Lift with everybody. And, I have my opinions on the particular style of music that it seems to come from, and I'm not saying it because I don't want to get in trouble. But yeah, it's a really sad thing to see that there's still people out there that are so trapped in that concept that, but me, and have no patience to actually listen to anybody else. As the show's getting more popular each week, because I'm watching the algorithm as well, around that 50-minute mark, it jumps to 150 people every week, And that's when it kicks in. It must be YouTube picks up the algorithm, pops it into like, check this out, it's live now. And then people just come in and go, I want you to hear my song now. It has to happen now. It's like, it doesn't work like that, folks.
Yeah.
Like, put the effort in, take the time, and plenty of people will listen to it.
And it is. It's a little sad, and I try to look at it I try. It's hard sometimes because it takes up a lot of time, but I try to use empathy because I think what I think to myself at that point, and it's the same with trolls on the internet, the same with people that make hateful comments. Like, yes, you can say that person's just a dick and that's dickish behavior, or you can say it's really sad because they've clearly got so many bad things going on in their life or nothing else good going on in their life that this is how they're choosing to spend their time and this is how they're getting their jollies by doing this. So, yeah, the negative stuff, I think, in that way. And I think the whole look at me, it's really weird. And it's a different thing. It's not I'm trying to understand the persona, but it's not my persona because I was getting really frustrated. A couple of weeks ago, I was getting really frustrated and I almost had a tantrum on the show because, again, I was trying to read the comments about someone's song and I'm like, this is so disrespectful because this person that emailed me 2 weeks ago with the story of their song that I've just played, and I'm trying to read the comments that other people in the audience, and all I can see is just these same people asking for this same stuff. I just felt like I got a giant rampage just saying, what gives you the right to think that I'm going to drop everything that I'm doing right now to just do that? How fair is that on the 10 people that are in the queue that have emailed me, that have followed the rules and done the right thing, that I'm just going to go, oh, actually, someone just came in and said that I should really play this song. Hold everything, folks. Hang on a minute. I've really got to do this now. Because why? Like, what is in their head that they're thinking that that's okay? I don't understand it. I'm probably never going to understand it because I'm an old man. So I'm just going to get off my lawn. Go back to TikTok. You can go over there and be TikTok famous instead.
Well, anyway. I'll finish on that and say, look, here's the deal. If you're one of those people who you're watching this show and that you think we're describing you, stop fucking doing it. That's the reason nobody's fucking listening to your songs. Because we can see you're a dick. Like, nobody wants to stick a dick in their mouth unless that's what your thing is. But no, like, really, stop being a dick. That is it. People can see through it.
I want to do it one day just to go, like, what are they expecting me to then say? So if I grind the show to a halt and I stop everything to play this one person's music and then I play it, what do they think the reaction's going to be? Like, oh, okay, now I've played that song. Like, it's putting you in this spotlight that I'm like, I would be terrified to do that. Can you imagine going into a stream with like 100 people and then being such an annoying troll that the person eventually just says, fine, here's your song, and playing it? Everyone's just going to be sitting back there going, oh God. Like, to everyone else in the audience, they'd be like, this is taking a turn. And why would anyone then go, this is the best song I've ever heard. I'm now going to like follow this person. Here, have a record contract. Like, no, it's not going to work that way. So again,
guaranteed they're going to click the close button as soon as their song's done as well. Guaranteed.
I've got emails that, again, they don't use the right language. Like, we make it pretty clear. Like, all you have to do is put in the subject YML, give me 1 or 2 sentences about your song, and give me a link. People don't follow that, and I'm like, you know what? If you can't follow those 3 simple things, you go in the trash. And I'm not usually that callous. I'm usually a very understanding, very forgiving person. But there are clearly people that come in. They'll ask it. You very kindly give them the reasons, even though it's in the description and even though it's in the pinned comment. You'll tell them what they need to do to submit a song.
And I'm pasting it in there,
and then they'll send me an email, and I can see the timestamps of all the emails. I get around about 30 to 40 emails just in the 1.5 2 hour period that we do the show. And yeah, it's very clear that some people are in there. They email the thing. I don't play their song instantly, and then they leave. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. And then I have to wade through those and then remove them before the next week's show, because you can rest assured they ain't going to be back there the next week to actually listen, because they don't have the patience to wait a week to do it. And again, the empathetic, that's not a word, the side of me that cares about people is caring about these people, because clearly, either through nature, nurture, or just attitude or whatever, they've got this belief in their head that that's okay. And there's obviously some bad things going on in their life and bad things going on in their world if they think that that's the way that you succeed or the way that you behave. And as I say a lot, we're trying to have a society here, people. To channel George Costanza, we're trying to have a society here, and you've got to be a member of it. You're a member of the tribe. You are not the only person. You are part of the tribe. And please be nice to the rest of the tribe, or they'll cook you on the big pot, if they're a cannibalistic tribe. I don't know where I'm going with that analogy. Please move on. Take it back, Jay.
You're the good cop, and I'm the fucking bad cop. So, yeah, there's the two types of people on this planet, folks. Arseholes and not arseholes. Don't be a part of the arseholes group.
Please, yes, please.
It's that simple. So we'll wrap up, because I know when we wrap up here, you are doing your GarageBand show, your, what is it called again?
GarageBand Help Desk.
Help Desk.
Yeah, because what I was finding is that I do my Q&A show every week, and I was finding that was just all GarageBand help. So I'm like, every couple of weeks, I'm doing a special GarageBand Help Desk extended edition. So, I'm going to go and hydrate for 15 minutes and then get myself set up. And then, we'll be talking GarageBand, doing some live demos of some GarageBand iOS stuff and answering any of your questions live. So if you haven't had enough of my voice, of me nasally voice and me bald head after 2 hours with Jade, you can come and hang out and spend another hour or two talking all things GarageBand.
Thank you very much, as usual, my friend, for coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, go and subscribe to Pete John's Studio Live Today channel. It is awesome. It is... how I found him was I was looking for help all those years ago, and I still do now. You know, he's an amazing artist, amazing YouTube creator, amazing teacher, amazing friend, and I got to play drums in his band. How cool is that? Who would have thought that?
Will again.
And will again. Awesome. So, and any links to Pete's Patreon, music, they're all in the description of this show, as always, so make sure you do all that funky stuff. And thanks, everybody, for being in the chat. I love all of your support. I wouldn't be here without you, so thank you so very much. You guys rule. I get up every day because I love seeing all your virtual internet faces and thumbs and tippy typing on the keyboard. So, ladies and gentlemen, you won't see me until the weekend when I open up after the Q&A show, your Q&A show, and I'm going to do some live music, folks. Going to do some music from my soon-to-come album. Going to do some acoustic stuff and may do a few covers in there as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. Thank you, Pete, for joining us, and we shall see you on the weekend and over there on Pete's channel in 15 minutes. Adios, amigos. Keep creating. Do the things that make you happy, and I'll see you again soon. We'll go out with this for some music. Yeah, bye. Oh yeah, subscribe. Subscribe.